In today's video, I will show you how to create this.
Does that work on everything?
It doesn't work on everything. Alright, so we're going to see how to resize any object, just like in the movie Red One, where The Rock does this. If you want to follow along with this tutorial using the exact same video files as me, you can do so by downloading them with the link in the description below. And without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so here we are in Adobe After Effects, and I imported the files that you can find with the link in the description below. And the first thing that I will do is drag my footage into a new composition. I recorded this in a vertical format because this is for social media posts. I'm going to close these windows just so I can see it a little bit better. And if we scrub through the video, I come to say hi and we're ready about to leave, taking a model car out of my pocket, placing it on the floor, and then I shoot at it and it should grow up just like in Red One. So right here, I'm about to point my watch towards the car. So we're going to make a marker right here. This is where I will shoot. And then right here, it will start growing, something like that. So I'm using the asterisk button on my numpad to make a marker on my footage. You don't need to do that. It's just an indicator on where you want to start. Do you want to create epic videos within minutes with easy to use video editing assets? Well, especially for Black Friday and Cyber Monday, I have put together this Hollywood mega bundle. Over 250 high quality VFX assets, including magic, sci-fi, action elements, fire and smoke elements, explosions, glitches, and much more. Plus, I'm throwing in my step-by-step training to create Hollywood level videos at home fast. All of this and more is for sale for just $67. And if this is not really what you're looking for, we're also giving a 50% discount to all of our products over at filmbro.com. Link is in the description below. And remember, this deal is only for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So if you want something, act quickly. Check it out with the link in the description below, and let's get back to the video. Next, I'm going to create a new composition. And I will make this, I'm going to uncheck lock aspect ratio. I'm going to make this square, so 1080 by 1080. And this is going to be my circle. I'm going to click OK. And then I will go over here to my rectangle tool, click on it, and I'm going to choose the ellipse tool. Double click on it to make an ellipse. And now you'll see that you'll have a perfect ellipse because we're working in a square composition. I will then take one of the corners and hold Shift and just make it a little bit smaller, just so it fits within the composition right here. You can play with the size here of the stroke, maybe make it a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to press S on the keyboard to bring up the scale properties. I'm going to set the scale to 0 and click on the stopwatch. Go 10 frames forward with holding Shift and then the page down button on your keyboard, and do that twice. So we jump 20 frames ahead, and I'm going to set it to 100. So now we have this here. I will choose both of these keyframes and press F9 on the keyboard just to add an easy ease to them. That's going to soften my animation a little bit. Then I'm going to press T on the keyboard and also zoom in here by clicking here, just so I can see things a little bit closer. And I'm going to click on the stopwatch for the opacity and bring it over to the center here. And then at the end, I'm going to set it to 0. On this last keyframe in the middle, I'm going to press F9 also to have a smooth transition to the full transparency. So now we have something like this, and that's perfect. Now we can go back to my car footage and we can bring in this circle. I'm going to bring it over right here to the point where I start the shoot. Now I'm going to toggle the switches and turn it on a 3D layer by clicking right here. And I can now rotate it in the right perspective. So first I'm going to put it in the perspective of my hand right here. And then press P on the keyboard, holding Shift, press R on the keyboard. And that's going to bring up the position properties and the orientation properties. I'm going to create a keyframe for both of these by clicking on the stopwatch just like so, and then taking these two keyframes and bringing them to the beginning of my layer. Next, I'm going to stay at the same position, click on this layer, and move it over to the car right here on the floor. Something like this. And so now we'll go back to the beginning of this layer, hold Shift, press page down and page down. So we jump ahead 20 frames and then move these keyframes exactly 20 frames in time. So now we should have an animation that seems a little bit like this right here. And maybe we want to offset these keyframes a little bit closer so we see the final circle right here. And if you think it's a little bit too big, we can always jump back in here, go to this last keyframe, and maybe make it a little bit smaller at the end so it's not that drastic. If you want, you can also add a little bit of blur to this. So I'm going over to the effects and presets and add a fast box blur to this layer. Go to the beginning where it's at 0, click on the stopwatch to create a keyframe for blur radius at 0. And then at the end, maybe go somewhere like 20 or 30. Just blur it out a little bit, just like so. We can now hold Control, hold Shift, and then press C to pre-compose our layer and move all the attributes into a new composition. And I'm going to do the rename this to Circle Shoot. Click OK. So now we have this individual circle that is shooting, but we want to have a few of these iterate behind it. And I'm going to be using the effect echo for this. So search for the echo effect and apply that to this layer. And so now we have a duplicate right here. We can increase the amount to something, let's say like 10. And now we will see we have a bunch of duplicates. If you want, you can also play with the echo time to change the time that they're behind each other, if you want more space or less space behind them. Okay, so this looks really cool. And it's like charging it to become bigger. So this is perfect. Now I can apply a color to this effect. So I'm going to search for the tint effect and apply this also to this layer and change the white color to some kind of orange color. You can also toggle the switches and make the mode, add, or screen. I'm going for screen here. And then I will also apply a solid composite effect just to fill in the background. And if we apply that, we will see that we fill it in with white. I want to change it to black. The reason I'm doing this is to work with glows. Glows need a black background to work well with. So then I'm going to search for the perfect glow preset, which you can download for free with link in the description below. It's our own preset to create nice looking glows. And if we apply that right here, I'm going to change the first radius of the main to, let's say 25, change the threshold to something like 27, and then increase the intensity to your liking. And so we get some glow around our effect. Once you've done that, now we can size up our car. And for that, I first want a smaller car to pop up to really give the idea that we're working with a miniature. So for that, I actually used a different image of my car where I took it from a higher perspective just to match the floor when it would be smaller. So I'm going to resize it holding Shift and make it smaller to fit my window right here. And next, we need to key out this car. You can either do this in Photoshop, or you can just take the pen tool and zoom in and then just go around the car. So I will start right here, and I'm going to set it to full resolution just so I can see the car very clear. You can even solo this so it all goes faster. And we can start drawing around the silhouette of the car. So now I have keyed out my car and I can unsolo this. And I'm going to press S on the keyboard and then scale it down to a size that I like and place it somewhere here. So now I have my smaller car. You can also click on it and go to the rotation tool. Just rotate it a little bit to match the perspective. Next, I'm going to create a new solid layer, and I'm going to take a color of my scene that is black. And then go into the black color, make sure that it's pretty dark, click OK, OK, and then uncheck this so we can concentrate on the scene. Again, go to the pen tool, and we're going to draw a mask for the shadow of the car to integrate it more with our scene. Something like this seems about right, and then we can close this mask, enable this layer again, press F on the keyboard and feather it a little bit, and then place it behind our car. So now we have some shadow below it, and it immediately feels a lot more like it's in my scene. Adjust your mask wherever you would want. And then we can rename this to Shadow. And I'm also going to parent link it using the pick whip tool to my car image. I'm also going to give this a color that they belong together. We can also shorten this layer just right here. So I shoot at the car, and then right here it needs to pop up. So I'm going to trim it just until here, and then press S on the keyboard just for my car layer. And the shadow should follow along. So scale it to the same size as the miniature car, something like this. Press P on the keyboard, click on stopwatch, and just offset this keyframe 1 frame back, just so it's invisible at first, and we immediately will have animation when we scale it up. Go a few frames forward, and then go over here and then just increase it to make it a little bit bigger. And then go 10 frames forward, so hold Shift, press page down, and click on the diamond here to create another keyframe. That means it's going to lock the value here for 10 frames. And then after that, we want to scale it up entirely for the entire car. After we have done that, I'm going to import the other image right here. I actually placed my car in the scene around where I wanted it to be at its final position. So I'm also going to bring this into my scene right here and also trim it around until here. I'm also going to key this out now. So I'm going to use my pen tool here, and I'm just going to key out the body here. And so we keyed out the body cap here, and then I'm going to duplicate this layer, Control D, press M on the keyboard and delete the mask. And this time I'm going to key out this part here. And so now we have just this part. I'm going to press F on the keyboard and just feather it quite a bit, just so it blends with the original footage as well. And so now we have 2 separate parts. We have this part and we have this part. I'm going to place this part below the body part. And we have this animation of our car that stays fixed. So let's concentrate now on this model car again. I'm also going to offset these 2 layers a little bit further into time. And so right here, we have our small miniature car. And with the scale property set correctly, I'm also going to press P on the keyboard and click on the diamond here, because I already created a keyframe for the position at the beginning, which wasn't necessary, but make a keyframe at this time frame right here. And then move right here. I'm going to hold Shift also and press S, just so I see the position and scale at the same time. And so now I want to scale this up so it fits the final car. And we will get something like this. So this will scale up just until here, and then we have this final state of this car. And so now we're going to move 10 frames ahead again and take this body cap here. Press P on the keyboard and also R, and click on the keyframes for this position. And then go to the beginning. And here I'm also going to just lower this, maybe rotate it a little bit, just like this. And I'm also going to trim these 2 layers. So selecting these 2 layers, hold Control Shift and D to split them, delete this part. And so now it's scaling up, and boom, we have this. And then we have some kind of suspension going, which is really going to sell the effect a lot more. And right now, of course, we can see the perspective isn't matching at all. So we can toggle the switches, just turn this layer into a motion blur layer by clicking right here. And now we should see in the animation that it has blur. If you want, you can also select these keyframes and just bring them closer, so it all goes a little bit faster. And just before the end keyframes are being met, we're going to trim this layer and then move these 2 frames or these 2 layers to the end. So now we have this growing animation with the final state. And because everything is happening so quickly, you're not really going to notice the perspective differences here. We can also select these 2 last keyframes, press F9 to make it easy ease. I'm also going to press B here so I can preview my range just until here, press N at the end. So now we have a smaller composition selection, and we can preview this to see where we are currently at. Okay, so this is looking great. I'm back to my car here, and I'm going to make sure that the scale is a little bit bigger, because I think it can be a little bit bigger. And just on this keyframe, of course, so make it a little bit bigger for this point. And then copy this keyframe, go to the second one here, and paste it also there, so we stay with the same range. And I think this is going to be working a little bit better. I'm also going to select all of these keyframes and press F9 except for the last one. So hold Shift on the last one and then press F9 for all of these. And we can even go into the graph editor if you would like. And select this keyframe and ramp it up just like that. Okay, so this is working well. Great. Now we have one more thing to do, and that's on the car itself, you have some kind of energy covering it to make it seem like magic is still surrounding it and it's still preparing itself to grow. So for that, I'm going to create a new solid layer. And I'm going to give it some kind of orange color. Click OK and OK. And then disable this layer. And from this moment, I'm going to trim this layer. So delete the first part. And up until here, I'm going to split my layer again, Ctrl-Shift-D, and delete the last part. So while selecting this layer, I'm going to choose my pen tool. Go over here to the center of the car, and I'm going to follow the perspective of the car. So we get something like this. All I'm going to do is extend the end points. Okay. Press M on the keyboard and create a keyframe for the mask path. Go all the way till the end. And I'm going to select points and then move them over. So just make sure you have one point at a time. And so it's scaling up like this. That's perfect. And then select all of these keyframes right here, including this keyframe, and moving it out of the car. So now we have this growing mask. If we enable our layer again, we see that we have this growing mask just like this. So now I'm going to toggle the switches until I see the track matte option. I'm going to track matte it to my car. And I'm also going to re-enable the car because automatically it's going to make it invisible. And so now it's going to be covered exactly around the car, like it's growing. Then I'm going to click on my mask and hold Ctrl, press D to duplicate it, and click on Subtract. Now we can open up the mask properties for both of these. And under the mask expansion for the new mask that we just duplicated, I'm going to go for a negative value and then also increase the feather just like that. And also increase the feather for the first part and maybe push it out a little bit. So increase the expansion. And so now we get this kind of double line effect that is scanning the car just before it grows up. And I think this looks amazing. Select all of these keyframes and then press F9 to easy ease them. And we can also toggle the switches or change the blending mode here to screen. Press T on the keyboard and lower the opacity just a little bit to blend it more with our original scene. And we create a nice scanning effect just before we size it up, and that's perfect. If you want, you can also highlight the first car right here just before it pops up. To do that, I'm just creating another solid here. Click OK and disable it. And just quickly go one keyframe back right here. And quickly go around it. And there we go. Enable this layer again, press F on the keyboard to feather it just a little bit and also change it to an add, for example. Press T on the keyboard, lower it however you want, and then click on the stopwatch, go one keyframe further, set it to 0, and go a few keyframes back so it kind of fades in. So we have some energy power fading in, boom, it pops up, and then we have the scanning line, and then it will go to its final state. That's absolutely perfect. I like this. I'm also going to trim this solid here. So Ctrl-Shift-D, delete this part, press U to reveal the keyframes, go till the end, Ctrl-Shift-D, and delete this part. Now select both of these layers, and I'm going to pre-compose them to scanning effects. Okay. And again, search for a solid composite effect and apply that. Change it to black and change it back to additive. And then we're going to search for the perfect glow, which again, you can download with a link in the description below. If you want, you can also change the colors, go back and forth, play around a little bit, but essentially this is it. And if you really want to finish it off, you can also add a quick screen shake by adding an adjustment layer all the way on top. and search for the screen shake, quick screen shake, which is again a download with link in the description below. It's our screen shake. And if you press U on the keyboard, you will see these keyframes right here. And zoom out a little bit. Select all of the keyframes and just offset them 1 frame. So whenever it's grown, it will start shaking. But as you can see, it's not perfectly centered. It gives us some weird results. To fix that, you just need to right click on the tile center for the mirror, reset, and then for the anchor point, reset, and that should solve it. And now we will have some light screen shake in our scene. You can also uncheck use composition shutter speed or shutter angle. And in the shutter angle, just input 180, which is the standard for filmmaking. All right, and that brings us to this final result.
All right, ready to go?
Yeah, but what?
Check this out.
Does that work on everything?
It doesn't work on everything.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give this video a like. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay notified when we upload new videos. Apart from that, I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, create epic videos.